So this happened to my friend, which we'll call him Jason for the sake of this story. Jason was about maybe 21 at the time of this story, back sometime in 2016 or 2017. He was driving home from seeing a friend of his who lived out of town. As he was driving, his car unfortunately broke down. He, of course, was in the middle of nowhere, and there were rarely people at this time, but luckily there was cell phone signal in the area where he was at. He pulled out his cell phone and called for a tow truck to come and pick him up, and at least someone to look in at his vehicle. As he was waiting, he was shivering, and he had a feeling it might have been the engine died. As he was cold, it was pretty much nighttime, and it was starting to go freezing cold. Suddenly, an unfamiliar vehicle pulled up beside his vehicle, and Jason was wondering who it was. With that said, Jason got up and asked the person, can you help me with my car? He asked. My car's broke down. A man who seemed to be in his mid-40s got up and got over his tools and took a look at the vehicle. Jason just stood there as the man looked at the vehicle. He actually did that, and he thanked me so much, and I thanked him so much. I don't have really much money to pay right now, Jason said, but this man shook his head. Oh, no need. I've done this for a long time. I'm a retired mechanic after all. My name is Matthew, he said. Jason smiled, and he thanked Matthew, and Matthew stayed and made sure that the car went over and running. As soon as the car started to move, Jason called the company who fixed his car, who was gonna get his car fixed up, and said that he didn't need anyone, and someone named Matthew fixed it. But when he got back to his home, Matthew calls, but of course he said that he was a retirement mechanic, and he did tell me something. The company I called was out of business, and it was a recording. Of course, they went out of business at least 2015, but that was pretty strange. Who answered the call on Jason's line? That left a mystery. They're assuming it might have been paranormal, or it could be somebody pulling a prank. Jason is very glad Matthew came to fix his car, because if he didn't, what could have happened to Jason? That still would not leave his mind to this very day. So this happened to my mom and I when we were taking our dog for a walk in the trail around maybe I guess 7 p.m. It was a bad night to come around, but there was still a little bit of sunlight, but unfortunately that all went away by the time we got to this trail. Now, my mom and I decided to take our dog for a walk on the trail, mainly because we wanted to do something before bed. I didn't have anything better to do at the time, so this happened about last year. And my mom and I got out and we went to take Bear outside for a walk on the trail. The trail walk was really nice, and especially when it's not that busy, there wasn't anybody at all. There was maybe only one other person, which was an old guy, but that's just about it. We were walking along the trail when we suddenly noticed something black. And of course, it was a really black figure, and in my point of view, it looked like a bear. But I wasn't so sure if this was a bear. It looked as if it was a bear, but it didn't show any signs of aggression. We thought maybe it might have been maybe somebody really tall walking through the woods if that was the case. Mom called Bear over and we did that, and whatever that thing was that walked across the path, it was only 15 feet away from us, and I didn't really get a chance to see what it actually was, as it was too dark and the thing moved too fast. I honestly don't know what that creature was, but when we got back home, I told my mom that we saw that big black figure and it didn't look like a bear. My mom had a feeling that it might have been a Sasquatch, but I honestly have no idea. It could have been a big person for all I know, but that remains to be a mystery for a very, very long time. So this happened to me when I was about maybe 17 years old at the time of this story. I was doing Christmas shopping with my brother and a friend of ours, which was a friend of my mom's. Now, with that being said, my mom's friend and my brother went to go get my brother some gifts for me and some other stuff while I was alone. I was basically going to get some gifts. While I was going to find some gifts, I eventually came across something that I wanted to get for my brother. Now, Skylanders was pretty popular at this time, so my brother, I got him Skylanders. It was a figure that he didn't have, so I decided to get that for him for Christmas. But as I was shopping, I saw a man that I have not seen before. He looked like he was maybe in his 30s, and he looked very unsettling. I honestly don't know what it is, but something about him seemed very odd and strange. I honestly felt that he was some sort of pervert or something like that, but I didn't think of it at the time. I just continued to shop when all of a sudden he came up to me. He said, "Hey, where are your shoes located at?" I could clearly tell that he wasn't really what I could say. He wasn't a, well, quote unquote, worker at Walmart. I just assumed that he was some guy looking for something. I said, "Look, buddy, I don't work here. Why don't you ask an employee? I'm sure an employee can really figure that out for you." I said. The guy seemed to frown and walked away. But that didn't seem to end there, though. When I was going to check out, as I already said to my mom's friend that I was going to check out, she said sure, and that was okay. So as I went to check out, I saw that same guy only a couple feet ahead from me, and I realized that this guy was stalking me. I honestly felt that this guy was going to try to snatch me. I paid for my presents and went away to the McDonald's, but as I did that, this guy grabs my hand and I start screaming and kicking him as hard as I can. Of course, the Walmart security guards came and got the man to let go of me, and I ended up looking at the workers at Walmart. They asked me questions, and they even called the police about this guy, and my mom's friend came over running and asked me if I was okay. I said that the guy tried to grab me and that I didn't know him. Apparently, as soon as he was forced in the back of the police car, the police asked me questions if I knew him, but I did not know him. But of course, they have no idea why he was trying to grab me, what was his intentions, and what would he have done if he took me away from the Walmart. I'm really glad that the Walmart security noticed this and took action, because if they didn't, I don't even know what could have happened to me right now. I still get chills when I think about this story, but I'm just really glad and thank God that Walmart security came in just in time. Things could have been a different story if they hadn't noticed me being grabbed. When my friend, which we'll call her Haley, was about maybe be 17 or 18 years old, something really freaky happened to her. Now, Haley was in high school at the time of this story, and she one day with her friend, or boyfriend in this case, which we'll call him Nathan, wanted to see what she was up to during the lunch break, as she didn't have really anything going on. Haley said that she was bored, and Nathan decided to say that they would go on a little adventure in the forest. The forest was not far from the high school property, so it wasn't really a big deal. So Nathan and Haley went down there together. As they were down there, though, this is when things got really different. They walked down through a snowy path, and it was taking place around January. Exams were around the corner, and of course, Haley should wish that she'd be studying. But unfortunately, that's not the case with this. Haley, and along with Nathan, they walked down through some corridors. At least, not corridors inquired, that is, but kind of like how would the forest be like. Now, when they were in the forest, they encountered a path that led off the path that the main school took. They decided to go off the path for a little while. But after a few minutes, they were at least far away from the school. They had no idea where they were, and they started to get a little nervous, thinking they should head back. But with that being said, Nathan then looked around, and Haley was told by Nathan to stop. Nathan told Haley to stop as he spotted something, and Haley just did as she was told. Haley looked up and saw that it looked like an old shack, or at least an old cabin. The cabin was covered in snow on the top of the roof, and the porch was also like that. Of course, it looked really old, and it was in a fair opening of the field. Haley didn't even know who or what it was in the winter, but it looked really old and abandoned, and it did take them a minute to realize that this was an old cabin. Thinking that nobody was home, they decided to go inside the cabin, and luckily, they were able to pry the door open as the door was really weak from the lack of proper care. They have no idea when it was abandoned, but they assumed that it might have been abandoned maybe be a few years ago. They had no idea about who or what owned the cabin, so they decided to go inside. As Nathan and Haley looked inside, they could see that there was no furniture, only with the exception of a few tables and chairs and some garbage, but that's just about it. Haley and Nathan went inside the cabin, and they looked around thinking that they could find somebody. All they saw were graffiti marks and even beer bottles and cigarette butts and all that. You get the idea. The cabin looked as if no one had been living there for years, and they ended up calling out if someone was there. But thankfully, they didn't hear anybody back, and this is when things started to get really crazy. Haley looked upstairs, and when she got up to the top, it looked like it might have been the bedroom. But as she looked in the bedroom, she looked to see that there was a person. It looked like someone was there. Now, he did look like a black figure, but he was far away in the distance. He did not notice Haley or Nathan coming in, or hear them for that matter. It just stood there. Haley then ended up going downstairs and telling Nate that they need to get out. That's when Nathan felt that someone grabbed him. Haley unfortunately got scared, but they turned around to see absolutely nobody there. They had no idea who or what grabbed Nathan, but then Haley was thrown in the air and then onto the wall. Haley woke up, of course. She was only knocked out for a few hours. She was in the hospital, and she was surrounded by her family. And she asked what happened, and of course they said that Haley had fell and hit her head hard, but the doctors are not sure how that was the case, but it was definitely something that Haley had no idea, as sometimes when she hit her head, she forgets what happens in it. But of course, with that being said, and when the parents left, Haley and Nathan were alone, and Nathan told her something that she did not expect. She said that the place was paranormal, as they had not seen anyone do all the things to the two of them. But Haley wondered who or what it was that threw her and onto the wall and tried to grab Nate. That still really freaks the two of them out, but they had no idea. They didn't even report it to the school as they were afraid of getting into trouble. But they never saw that figure again, but they're still not sure who it was. But it was something that they did not expect to see. But still to this day, they are still convinced that what they experienced in that cabin was definitely paranormal, or somebody does not want them here. They should have not went in that cabin. But of course, I'm really going to be completely honest. I really don't know. That really still freaks the two of them out to this day whenever they think about it.